Hello friends. Let's imagine a person with the magnetic, secretive power of a Scorpio, born under the sign ruled by Pluto and Mars, paired with the feral energy, courage, and unpredictability of the tiger in the Chinese zodiac. What happens when deep emotional undercurrents meet explosive action? When loyalty battles impulse? When mystery flirts with danger? Today, we step into the enigmatic world of the Scorpio Tiger, one of the most intense and fascinating zodiac combinations you'll ever encounter. These individuals are emotional warriors, strategic lovers, fierce protectors, and sometimes their own worst enemies. Let's break down who they truly are, not just through their actions, but through their essence, across love, marriage, sex, friendship, business, shadow traits, and their ultimate life mission. Love. Falling in love with a Scorpio Tiger isn't just a romance, it's a transformation. You don't date them, you survive them. To love a Scorpio Tiger is to enter a realm of emotional extremity where the heart is set on fire, and there's no turning back. Their love is both a sanctuary and a storm. It doesn't creep in slowly, it crashes into your life with the force of something inevitable, something fated. You'll feel as though you've been chosen, not just for affection, but for a life-altering connection. When they fall in love, it's never casual. It's not a maybe, it's all or nothing. They love like a storm, passionate, unpredictable, overwhelming. Their emotions have tides, and once you're pulled in, you're caught in a powerful current. On the surface, they may appear composed, even a little mysterious, but underneath lies a volcanic intensity that, once ignited, reshapes both lovers. They can be fiery, obsessive, and sometimes consuming, not because they want control, but because they feel everything so deeply that moderation is simply not in their nature. Their love doesn't flicker like a candle. It burns like a wildfire, leaving behind either a garden or a wasteland, depending on how it's handled. Once they choose you, they commit with their whole being. There's no such thing as half in for a Scorpio Tiger. They'll pour their time, thoughts, and energy into the relationship. You'll become their priority, their focus. This kind of commitment feels exhilarating but can also be intense for someone not used to such single-minded devotion. They aren't the type to play games or chase attention. If they're in, and they expect the same in return. But beware, commitment to them is sacred. Betray it, and you'll lose not just their love, but their trust, possibly forever. But getting them to that point, that's the tricky part. They don't trust easily, and their inner world is tightly guarded. Think Fort Knox with emotional barbed wire. Their past experiences, especially those involving betrayal, are never truly forgotten. Scorpio Tigers carry emotional scars with pride, not shame. They believe in earning trust, not giving it away freely. They test people, often without warning, to see who deserves access to their deeper layers. If you pass, you're one of the few. If not, you may never know just how close you were to touching their soul. They crave a partner who's both emotionally intelligent and mentally resilient, someone who can withstand the emotional roller coaster and still ask, when's the next ride? They can't connect with those who avoid confrontation, hide behind social niceties, or flinch at uncomfortable truths. They want a partner who can call them out, stand beside them in darkness, and reflect back the fire they hold within. Their ideal match understands that love isn't always soft, sometimes it's fierce, raw, and brutally honest. And they wouldn't want it any other way. Their ideal partner? Someone deep, intuitive, and not afraid to face darkness, because Scorpio Tigers don't do surface-level anything. They aren't interested in small talk or cute cliches. They want to explore your fears, your ambitions, your shadows. To them, vulnerability is more erotic than appearance, and emotional depth is more attractive than perfection. They're drawn to mystery, strength, and inner complexity, people who, like them, contain multitudes. If you can't swim in emotional depths or aren't willing to be completely open eventually, they'll sense it instantly, and pull back. If you're looking for a lighthearted, drama-free connection, this is not your person. They don't do casual. They don't do chill. For Scorpio Tigers, love isn't a gentle breeze, it's a hurricane with purpose. They will challenge you, break you open, and then rebuild with you. Drama isn't their goal, but intensity is inevitable because it's simply who they are. Love, to them, is not a game, nor is it meant to be tamed. It's meant to be lived fully, painfully, and beautifully. If you're not ready to ride the waves, you'll drown. But if you crave passion, depth, and growth, they're unforgettable. A love with a Scorpio Tiger will change the way you see yourself. You'll face your fears, question your boundaries, and emerge stronger. Their love has the power to heal and destroy, sometimes in the same breath. They are the kind of lovers you never really get over, even if the relationship ends. Because with them, it was never just about love. It was about awakening. It was about transformation. It was about becoming more than you were, together. And if you survive their fire, you'll never settle for lukewarm again. Marriage. In marriage, Scorpio Tigers don't mellow, they evolve. And they expect their partner to evolve too. Marriage to them is not a destination. It's a constant process of growth, reinvention, and mutual transformation. They don't settle into a routine and call it love, they demand more. The union must continue to challenge, excite, and deepen. If their partner stops growing emotionally or mentally, the Scorpio Tiger begins to feel trapped, unfulfilled, and restless. They see marriage as a dynamic ecosystem. If one part stops thriving, the entire relationship feels endangered. That's why they often push their spouse to keep reaching, dreaming, and discovering new sides of themselves, just as they do. They need freedom, even in commitment. Not freedom to roam romantically, but freedom to be themselves. This distinction is critical. Scorpio Tigers are deeply loyal, often monogamous by nature when truly committed. But that commitment cannot come at the cost of their individuality. They need the space to express their unique identity, pursue personal interests, and maintain emotional independence. If they're expected to conform, shrink, or dull their flame for the sake of fitting into a married role, they'll rebel, quietly at first, but with growing intensity. Marriage to them should feel like expansion, not restriction. They must feel respected, heard, and unboxed. Scorpio Tigers bristle against limitations, emotional, intellectual, or social. A spouse who imposes rules for the sake of control rather than connection will quickly find themselves shut out. These individuals are naturally dominant personalities, but they don't demand submission, they demand equality with fire. They will fiercely protect their partner's freedom as well, but they expect that same fierce respect in return. The moment they feel their essence is being filtered, censored, or judged inside their own marriage, the walls go up. And once up, those walls don't come down easily. If their partner tries to control them or put them into a mold, the Scorpio Tiger will rebel, even if that means burning down a relationship they once cherished. They will endure a great deal out of loyalty, but when pushed to a breaking point, their reaction can be absolute. They don't do half leaving or cold distancing. They will implode the relationship with the same intensity with which they once loved. This doesn't come from pettiness, but from a deep-rooted need for authenticity. If they feel the marriage has become a performance or a prison, they will light the match and walk away from the ashes. They're incredibly devoted spouses when they believe in the marriage, and that belief is powerful. If they see the relationship as a true partnership, something built on truth, growth, and loyalty, they will show up in every way. They are not passive participants. They invest time, energy, and their entire emotional being into their home life. They may not always express affection in traditional or romantic ways, but they'll show their love through effort, by planning for the future, handling crises with calm strength, standing up for their spouse, and always having their back when the world turns cold. They show love through action, building a stable home, defending their family, and supporting their partner's growth. Scorpio Tigers are natural providers, protectors, and builders. They take pride in creating something lasting, something solid. Whether it's financial security, emotional consistency, or just unwavering presence, they show up. They may forget anniversaries or skip the love notes, but they'll remember the things that matter: your fears, your dreams, the exact way your voice sounds when you're hiding something. Their love doesn't come wrapped in bows, but it's there, fierce, solid, and unshakable. But don't expect syrupy words. they show, they don't tell. Verbal expressions of love don't come easily to Scorpio Tigers. They find sentimentality uncomfortable, even suspicious at times. To them, words are cheap unless backed by behavior. That doesn't mean they lack emotion, quite the opposite. They feel deeply, but those feelings are sacred. They're more likely to fix your car, plan your future, or protect you from harm than whisper sweet nothings. Their love is pragmatic, physical, and incredibly sincere, if you know where to look. Jealousy, however, is a lingering ghost in Scorpio Tiger marriages. These individuals have razor-sharp intuitions and can smell betrayal a mile away. They don't need proof, they just know. And that knowing can become obsession if not checked. Even the suggestion of disloyalty, emotional or physical, can send them into a spiral of suspicion and silent resentment. They won't always confront it head-on. Sometimes they'll wait, gather clues, test boundaries. But if their suspicions are confirmed, even slightly, the fallout can be dramatic and final. Trust, once broken, is rarely restored. And even if the marriage continues, it may never feel whole again. If trust is broken, even slightly, it's nearly impossible to rebuild. Scorpio Tigers view betrayal not as an event, but as a fracture, a permanent break in the foundation. Forgiveness may be given, but forgetfulness never will. The relationship may go on, but the purity of their loyalty, the kind that made them give you everything, is gone. From then on, everything is filtered through caution. The emotional gates close, and once closed, they rarely reopen fully. This is why loyalty is not just a virtue to them, it's the oxygen of the marriage. Take it away, and everything else suffocates. A healthy marriage with a Scorpio Tiger is built on mutual respect, shared goals, emotional honesty, and a good amount of space for each person to maintain their identity. This is the magic formula. It's not about traditional roles or cookie-cutter romance. It's about intensity that doesn't consume, passion that builds instead of burns. When they feel trusted, admired, and given room to breathe, Scorpio Tigers become the most dedicated, empowering partners you could ask for. They will fight for the marriage, tooth and claw. They will lift you when you fall and challenge you to keep growing. And if you return that same loyalty and openness, you'll experience a marriage that doesn't just survive, it evolves into something extraordinary. Sex. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather, the tiger in the bedroom. Scorpio Tigers are not just sexual, they are sexuality, wrapped in mystery, danger, and magnetism. Their presence alone can feel like a seduction. They don't need to try to be sexy, it radiates from them effortlessly. There's something about the way they move, speak, and look at you that creates a current in the room. Even in silence, they provoke curiosity and arousal. But what really sets them apart is that their sexual energy isn't random or chaotic. It's deliberate, focused, and deeply personal. To them, sex isn't recreation. It's revelation. Scorpio Tigers are among the most sensual, magnetic lovers in the zodiac. Their sexuality isn't just about pleasure. It's about power, intimacy, control, and emotional fusion. They want to merge with you in every possible way. Their passion is all-encompassing, rooted in emotional tension and raw physicality. They don't just want to have you, they want to understand you, feel you, and possess you in a way that leaves you marked. When they desire someone, it's almost psychic. They pick up on non-verbal cues, body language, emotional undercurrents. They'll know how to touch you before you even know you want to be touched. They don't just want your body. They want your mind, your secrets, your soul. And they will read you, like a novel you didn't know you wrote, to understand how to own the experience. They're drawn to complexity and emotional contradiction. If you're guarded or mysterious, they'll be even more interested, not for conquest, but for connection. They don't chase easy wins. They chase depth. For Scorpio Tigers, the most erotic thing in the world is psychological nakedness. They want to unlock you, layer by layer, until you feel completely exposed, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. And they will read you, like a novel you didn't know you wrote, to understand how to own the experience. They notice everything: the change in your breathing, the flicker in your eyes, the tension in your shoulders. They'll use that awareness not just to pleasure you, but to control the moment. Scorpio Tigers are masterful at creating anticipation. They don't rush, they build. Their foreplay begins long before you reach the bedroom, sometimes with a glance across a room, or the way their fingers brush your hand. They craft desire like a storyteller crafts suspense, slowly, deliberately, and with devastating effect. In bed, they're dominant, creative, and intense. They enjoy pushing limits and crave partners who are just as bold. If you're timid or emotionally disconnected, it'll be obvious and disappointing. Scorpio Tigers are not here for mechanical sex. They want presence. They want eye contact that feels like confession, touch that feels like ownership, and energy that pulses with meaning. They'll experiment, they'll explore, but they need a partner who's mentally and emotionally engaged, someone who surrenders not out of passivity, but out of trust. Someone who dares to meet them in their full intensity without flinching. They enjoy pushing limits and crave partners who are just as bold. Taboo, role play, fantasy. Nothing is off the table as long as it serves the deeper emotional charge. Scorpio Tigers want to know what turns you on, not just physically but psychologically. They'll ask the questions others are too shy to ask. They'll create a space where you feel safe enough to share things you've never said aloud. And once you do, they'll remember. They'll use it, not to manipulate, but to elevate the experience to something far beyond the physical. To them, sex should break boundaries, not just satisfy urges. If you're timid or emotionally disconnected, it'll be obvious and disappointing. Scorpio Tigers thrive on connection. If you're simply going through the motions, they'll feel it instantly. Their intuition in the bedroom is almost supernatural. They know when your mind drifts. They know when your heart isn't in it. And if they feel like you're holding back, emotionally or physically, they'll either try to break through or back away entirely. Not because they're judgmental, but because anything less than full surrender feels hollow to them. They'd rather have nothing than have sex that feels emotionally empty. For them, sex is an art form. And like all artists, they want to create something unforgettable every time. They approach each encounter with intention. It's not about repetition, it's about reinvention. They want each experience to feel different, tailored to the moment, the energy, the chemistry. Whether it's slow and spiritual or rough and primal, they read the room and adapt. They don't just want you to feel good, they want to etch a memory into your body. A Scorpio Tiger doesn't aim for satisfaction. They aim for transformation. After a night with them, you won't just feel desired, you'll feel known. Friendship. Making friends? Easy. Keeping them? That's the challenge. Scorpio Tigers have an undeniable allure. People gravitate toward them instinctively, not because they seek attention, but because they exude presence. Their combination of quiet intensity and unspoken charisma is hypnotic. Whether they're holding court in a room full of people or sitting in silence with a single companion, their energy commands attention. They can connect quickly, sparking deep conversations out of thin air and making others feel seen in ways few people ever do. But as effortlessly as they draw others in, keeping a place in their inner circle requires far more than charm. Scorpio Tigers are magnetic. People are drawn to them like moths to flame. They're funny, charming, passionate, and totally unpredictable. You never know what version of them you'll meet on any given day. Will it be the philosophical one, waxing poetic about purpose and pain? The sarcastic one, roasting your favorite show with brutal accuracy? Or the silent one, watching and listening with eyes that feel like they see more than you're saying? This unpredictability makes them endlessly interesting, but also emotionally demanding. They're not for the faint-hearted or the easily offended. Their friendships are fire, and fire always transforms. They're funny, charming, passionate, and totally unpredictable. Their sense of humor is sharp, often dark, always clever. They'll make you laugh till you can't breathe, then pause to dissect the meaning of death, loyalty, or cosmic injustice. Hanging out with them is never boring. They thrive on spontaneity, impulsive road trips, deep midnight conversations, and moments that don't follow the script. If you need a friend who's consistent, lighthearted, and emotionally low maintenance, this isn't it. But if you crave depth, mystery, and a connection that leaves you thinking long after the night ends, they're unforgettable. One minute you're laughing on a rooftop, the next, you're having a 2-hour conversation about life's meaning. That's the Scorpio Tiger experience. They don't believe in small talk, they either want real connection or no connection at all. They can turn a casual dinner into a soul excavation session, asking questions that make you rethink your life. They'll sit with your silence without needing to fill it. They'll challenge your beliefs, poke at your fears, and push you to confront your shadow. If that sounds exhausting, it can be, but it's also deeply rewarding. Because when they invest in friendship, they do it with their whole being. But while many will orbit them, few will truly know them. Scorpio Tigers are incredibly private and only let a select few into their inner circle. They might share stories, laugh freely, and seem emotionally open, but that's only part of the truth. The real core of who they are is protected by layers of silence, self-protection, and past wounds. If you've ever heard them say, "I don't let people in easily," believe them. It's not a line, it's a lifestyle. But if you prove yourself through time, loyalty, and emotional consistency, they will slowly, carefully open the vault. And what's inside is worth the wait. These are the friends they would die for, literally. They are intensely loyal, and once you're in for life. Scorpio Tigers don't love lightly, and they don't befriend lightly either. Once they consider you family, you're wrapped in an invisible armor of their protection. They'll defend you in your absence, support you in crisis, and never let you face life's hardest battles alone. Their loyalty isn't loud, it's just absolute. You may not hear them say, "I love you," often, but you'll feel it in the way they show up at 3 a.m. or handle your enemies like it's personal. Because it is. That said, betray their trust, and it's game over. They don't do second chances lightly. Ghosting? Cutting people off? Oh, they invented that art. Scorpio Tigers believe deeply in trust, and once it's broken, the damage is often irreparable. They don't do fake forgiveness or polite distancing. They cut like a blade, clean, cold, and complete. There are no drawn-out confrontations or dramatic exits, just silence. You'll feel the chill of their absence more than the heat of their anger. They'll disappear from your life like a ghost who never existed. Not because they stopped caring, but because they can't unsee betrayal. They are not the type to keep a wide social circle. They prefer a few deep connections over a crowd of acquaintances. For them, friendship isn't about quantity, it's about quality. They're not interested in gossip, superficial bonds, or party-only friendships. They want people who can handle their intensity, challenge their ideas, and stay when things get dark. They're more likely to have 3 soul-deep friendships than 30 casual hangouts. And those few they let in? They guard them fiercely, love them fully, and never let go, unless given a reason that cuts deep enough to force them to. And if you can keep up with their emotional depth and spontaneous adventures, you'll have a friend who will protect you like a warrior. Scorpio Tigers are not passive companions. They'll push you to grow, cheer for your wins louder than anyone, and confront your enemies with a glare that says, "Try me." They're loyal to a fault, wise beyond their years, and emotionally fearless. If you call them your best friend, know that you've been chosen, not randomly, but because you've shown something rare: emotional courage, truth, and staying power. In return, you get a friendship that doesn't fade, doesn't flinch, and doesn't forget. Business. Scorpio Tigers are natural-born strategists with the drive of a visionary and the instincts of a street fighter. In the business world, they're the ones drawing blueprints while others are still asking questions. They have a sixth sense for timing, opportunity, and people's true intentions. While some rely on data and others on instinct, Scorpio Tigers blend both into an almost prophetic understanding of what moves to make. They don't just play the game, they anticipate it. Every decision is calculated, every interaction measured, and every goal pursued with quiet, unshakable intensity. They aren't loud about their ambitions, they let results speak. They don't just work hard, they dominate. Whether they're running a business, managing a team, or freelancing their way to success, they bring laser-sharp focus and relentless energy. When a Scorpio Tiger is on a mission, distractions vanish. They are tunnel-visioned in the best way, fully immersed in whatever they pursue. Deadlines don't scare them, they ignite them. They will outwork, outthink, and outmaneuver anyone in their way, not out of spite, but because they genuinely cannot tolerate mediocrity. To them, business isn't just about money. It's about mastery, power, and proving to themselves that they can rise above the system, or redesign it entirely. They're ambitious, yes, but more than that, they want control, autonomy, the ability to make their own rules, which is why many end up as entrepreneurs or in leadership roles. They're not built to follow blindly. They're built to build. Structure is important to them, but only when it serves their vision. They don't just want to be part of a machine, they want to design the engine. You'll rarely find a Scorpio Tiger content with just clocking in. They crave ownership, not just of their work, but of their destiny. And if they can't find a seat at the table, they'll build their own, and own the whole damn dining room. Risk doesn't scare them, it fuels them. But they're not reckless. Scorpio Tigers calculate every move like a chess master. They study the game, then break it. Every risk is premeditated, every gamble backed by research and intuition. Their tiger nature gives them the courage to leap. Their Scorpio mind makes sure they land on their feet. They often sense trends before they emerge, pick up on subtle shifts in market behavior, or predict competitor moves without being told. This makes them formidable in industries that reward innovation, strategy, and speed. To them, business is war, but war is winnable with the right mindset and map. They study the game, then break it. Scorpio Tigers are notorious for disrupting tradition. They're not interested in how things have always been done, they're interested in how things could be done better. This makes them valuable in creative and tech-driven fields, where innovation is currency. Whether they're launching a startup, designing systems, or overhauling a company's internal culture, they bring a fearless originality to the table. And when they break the rules, it's never random. It's precise. They'll bend systems not just to rebel, but to improve, to elevate, to leave their mark. One downside? They can be too intense for more laid-back work environments. Their standards are high, for themselves and others, and they don't tolerate laziness or incompetence. Scorpio Tigers expect results. If you're late, unprepared, or unmotivated, they'll notice, and likely won't be quiet about it. They hold themselves to impossible standards and often assume others should do the same. This can create tension in teams that value balance over brute ambition. But for those who can match their energy, working with a Scorpio Tiger can feel like being part of something electric. They push people toward greatness, whether those people are ready for it or not. Their standards are high, and their patience is short, but put them in a high-stakes situation, and they thrive. When others panic, they focus. When systems break down, they rebuild. Scorpio Tigers are especially powerful during company crises, startup turbulence, or moments of unpredictable change. They have the rare ability to remain calm and calculating in the eye of the storm. They don't just endure pressure, they become sharper under it. Their decision-making becomes more intuitive, their leadership more assertive. Give them a mess, and they'll turn it into a machine. Give them a breakdown, and they'll build a breakthrough. They also work well under pressure, thanks to their tiger-born instinct to rise in chaos. Give them a crisis, and they'll turn it into a comeback story. Scorpio Tigers have a long fuse, but once they ignite, their performance becomes unstoppable. Pressure activates their most resourceful, courageous self. When a business is failing, a team is collapsing, or a plan falls apart, they don't retreat. They rise. Their mind sharpens, their instincts sharpen, and their fear turns into forward motion. It's not that they enjoy stress, it's that they use it. What breaks others builds them. And in those moments of high stakes and high heat, the Scorpio Tiger becomes who they were born to be, the one who doesn't just survive, but wins. Dark sides. Let's be real, no zodiac combination is all roses. And Scorpio Tigers? Their shadows are as fierce as their light. The very traits that make them magnetic, powerful, and unforgettable also carry a sharp edge. Their intensity can turn to volatility, their depth to darkness, and their passion to possession. Scorpio Tigers don't just have flaws, they have epic flaws. They feel everything in extremes, and when their emotional world tips into chaos, they can become their own worst enemy. Their shadow side is not subtle. It's bold, consuming, and often rooted in fear. Fear of betrayal, of failure, of losing control. They can be manipulative, jealous, secretive, and controlling, especially when they feel threatened. Scorpio Tigers hate vulnerability, and rather than express insecurity directly, they tend to engineer outcomes through control. If they sense competition, suspicion, or emotional instability in a relationship, they may resort to subtle manipulation. It's not always malicious, sometimes it's unconscious, a learned survival tactic. But make no mistake, they know how to push buttons, craft illusions, and bend truths when they feel cornered. Jealousy can become obsession, control can become suffocation, and their natural tendency to strategize can morph into psychological warfare if unchecked. They hold grudges like medals and can plot revenge with chilling precision. Scorpio Tigers don't forget, ever. Even when they forgive, a part of them keeps a record, not just of what was done, but how it made them feel. If they believe someone has betrayed or humiliated them, they may smile on the outside while planning emotional retribution. They won't always react immediately, sometimes they wait, observe, and strike when you least expect it. And their revenge isn't loud or theatrical, it's surgical. They aim for impact, not chaos. They want you to feel what they felt, even if it takes years to get there. You won't even know they're mad until your world subtly falls apart. Scorpio Tigers are masters of silent fury. They won't necessarily yell or confront you. Instead, they withdraw, or worse, stay close while emotionally dismantling the connection piece by piece. They may ghost you, sabotage opportunities, or pull strings behind the scenes. Their anger is rarely impulsive, it simmers until it finds its outlet. And by the time they're finished, the damage is done. You'll be left wondering when things changed, not realizing they started planning your exit the moment you crossed a line they never voiced out loud. Emotionally, they go from 0 to 100 without warning. One minute they're cool and collected, the next they're spiraling into suspicion or anger. Their emotional scale has no middle ground. Because they suppress vulnerability, small issues can build into internal explosions. They may bottle up their feelings for weeks, appearing unaffected, then explode over something minor, leaving others confused and hurt. These emotional whiplashes make them difficult to predict, and for partners or friends, it can feel like walking on a landmine field. They crave emotional safety but struggle to create it, especially when their pride or ego feels at risk. And because they hate appearing vulnerable, they often lash out or withdraw instead of just talking. Emotional honesty feels dangerous to a Scorpio Tiger. It threatens their need for control. Rather than admit they're hurt, they may use sarcasm, coldness, or passive aggression to protect themselves. If they're scared of losing someone, they might act like they don't care. If they feel overwhelmed, they'll disappear instead of asking for help. This emotional self-protection often alienates the people they love most. Ironically, their fear of abandonment can cause the very isolation they were trying to avoid. They struggle to trust that vulnerability won't be weaponized against them. Their perfectionism can also become toxic, especially when turned inward. When things don't go their way, they may self-sabotage or spiral into destructive patterns just to regain a sense of control. They're extremely hard on themselves, and failure feels like an existential crisis. In business, love, or creative pursuits, if their expectations aren't met, they may burn everything down rather than risk being seen as imperfect. This self-imposed pressure can lead to anxiety, burnout, or unhealthy obsession. Instead of adapting or learning, they sometimes cling harder to the ideal, blaming themselves or others for the loss of control. Worst-case scenario? A Scorpio Tiger with no purpose or support system can become bitter, paranoid, and dangerously self-centered. Untethered, they lose their sense of grounding and spiral into mistrust and emotional detachment. They may become cynical, driven only by power or control, manipulating people instead of connecting with them. They isolate themselves, convinced that no one understands them or deserves them. their ambition warps into domination. Their independence mutates into isolation. They see enemies everywhere and allies nowhere. They become a fortress with no door, a flame with no warmth. And they'll defend this version of themselves with iron logic and razor wit. But the good news? They're also deeply self-aware. And when they want to change, they can reinvent themselves completely. Unlike many, Scorpio Tigers are not blind to their flaws. Deep down, they know when they've crossed a line, hurt someone, or burned a bridge. And when they hit emotional rock bottom, which they often do, they rise with intention. They study themselves like they study others. They dissect their patterns, confront their wounds, and rebuild from the rubble. Their ability to transform is unmatched. When they commit to healing, they don't just become better, they become powerful healers themselves. From shadow to light, they can walk the full spectrum, and bring others with them. Life goals. So, what does the Scorpio Tiger ultimately want? Power with purpose, love with truth, a legacy that matters. These individuals are not driven by superficial ambition or fleeting success. They want to be remembered, not just as someone who did something, but as someone who meant something. Every decision they make, every direction they pursue, is underscored by an intense desire to leave a mark. But not just any mark, a meaningful one. For the Scorpio Tiger, achievement without depth feels hollow. They want their life to be a story worth telling, and they want that story to change the reader. They're not interested in small talk, shallow wins, or temporary pleasures. They want meaning, whether it's starting a family, building an empire, writing a novel, or creating a movement. Their life goal is to transform themselves, their loved ones, the world. They don't just chase success, they chase impact. Scorpio Tigers are innately wired to seek out the deeper narrative in everything. They want to know what drives people, what breaks them, what heals them, and they want to use that knowledge to build something bigger than themselves. If their life feels directionless or emotionally meaningless, they will unravel quickly. Purpose is their oxygen. Whether it's starting a family, building an empire, writing a novel, or creating a movement, their life goal is to transform. They see life as an opportunity not just to exist, but to evolve. They want to become something more, and in the process, help others become more too. Transformation is the thread that ties together their diverse ambitions. They might be drawn to spiritual work, humanitarian causes, or entrepreneurial ventures, but the core motivation is always the same: growth, elevation, rebirth. They don't want the world to stay as it is. They want to push boundaries, challenge norms, and elevate consciousness, their own and others. They crave emotional depth and spiritual growth just as much as success. In fact, they often juggle these two paths simultaneously, building external empires while digging into their internal soul. For every business they launch or career milestone they hit, there's usually an inner journey running parallel, a search for meaning, for healing, for truth. Scorpio Tigers can be found meditating between meetings, journaling in the early hours before dawn, or reading philosophy after closing a business deal. They believe that real success is not just measured in dollars or accolades, it's measured in self-awareness, emotional integrity, and spiritual alignment. In fact, they often juggle these two paths simultaneously, building external empires while digging into their internal soul. This dual pursuit often makes them complex, even contradictory. They can be incredibly material and incredibly mystical, strategic and spiritual, ruthless in business and tender in private. This balancing act is not easy, and sometimes it tips one way or the other. But when they find alignment between outer ambition and inner truth, their life takes on a powerful momentum. Everything begins to feel connected. Their professional goals gain soul, and their spiritual path gains structure. When this harmony clicks into place, there's no stopping them. Many Scorpio Tigers eventually lean into mentorship, leadership, or even the arts. These paths allow them to channel their lived experience into something that serves others. They are natural mentors because they've seen darkness, both within and around them, and survived it. They know how to guide people through transformation because they've done it themselves. Whether they're leading a team, teaching a class, directing a film, or simply being a pillar for their community, They use their intensity not to dominate, but to inspire. When they speak, people listen, not because they're loud, but because they know something true, and people can feel it. They are storytellers, people who survive something dark, turn it into light, and teach others how to do the same. Scorpio tigers often view life as a series of symbolic deaths and rebirths. They lose things, they rebuild, they break down, they rise stronger, and in every chapter, they gather wisdom that they eventually share, through conversation, art, leadership, or writing. Their personal stories often carry themes of survival, courage, betrayal, transformation, and healing. These are not casual tales. They're lessons forged in fire. And they don't just tell them to be heard, they tell them so others can be helped. They want to be known for something real, not fame for fame's sake, but influence that carries meaning. They don't want surface-level admiration. They want to stir people's souls, inspire change, wake others up, whether they leave behind a business empire, a best-selling book, a loyal family, or a cultural movement. They want it to mean something. Scorpio tigers aren't afraid of hard work, long nights, or personal sacrifice if the end result contributes to something lasting. They dream of legacy, not as ego, but as responsibility. To them, success is not just about what you build, but what you leave behind. Their life's mission is to live fully and die empty, to pour every last ounce of talent, truth, intensity, and love into the world before they go. They want to look back and know they burned through life, not in destruction, but in illumination. That they transformed pain into wisdom, that they loved fearlessly, that they fought for something that mattered, and above all, that they helped others do the same. Because at their core, that's the ultimate life goal of the Scorpio tiger, to become something real, and to help others rise into their own power along the way. Final thoughts. A Scorpio tiger is not easy to love, not easy to understand, but for those brave enough to embrace their storms, they offer a connection like no other, raw, real, and transformative. To love a Scorpio tiger is to agree to depth. You will never get the watered-down version of them. They don't know how to dilute. Their emotional atmosphere is always heavy, always electric, always stirring something inside you. They challenge you to show up, to dig deeper, to be honest not just with them but with yourself. It's a love that refines you, one that breaks illusions, one that forces you to grow. They're not here for comfort. They're here for truth, and that truth isn't always gentle. Loving them means sitting with their darkness and letting them see yours. It's not always a romance full of laughter and light. Sometimes it's silence, sometimes it's fire, sometimes it's uncomfortable honesty that cuts like glass but heals like sunlight. But if you can stand the intensity, if you can surrender to the experience without trying to control it, you'll find something incredibly rare. A love that doesn't just accept your scars, but sees them as sacred. They are not built for everyone, and they know it. Scorpio tigers carry a kind of cosmic loneliness, a knowing that few will truly understand the scope of their mind or the depth of their heart. But they'd rather be alone than be misunderstood. They don't crave popularity. They crave connection, real, soul-level connection. And they will wait for it. They will withhold themselves from surface-level interactions for months, years even, if it means finding one person who can handle all of who they are. That's how much their truth matters to them. They don't bend to be loved, they wait to be seen. They're the rebels with a cause, the lovers with a shield, the fighters with poetry in their hearts. They move through life like warriors, armored but not heartless, driven but not cold. Their contradictions are their power. They are intense yet tender, bold yet introspective, fierce yet incredibly vulnerable once they trust you. They don't show weakness easily, but that doesn't mean they don't feel deeply. In fact, they feel more than most. They've just learned to guard it behind sharp eyes and even sharper instincts. But behind that shield is a soul that aches for connection, purpose, and someone who can read the language they don't always speak aloud. They live by their own rules. Society's expectations don't sway them. Popular opinion doesn't shape them. They chart their own course, and they'll walk it, alone if necessary. They respect authenticity above all else, and they'll test the world around them until they find what's real. To be close to them, you must also be real. Pretenders exhaust them. Liars repel them. They will respect your truth, even if it's messy, but they won't tolerate dishonesty, manipulation, or moral cowardice. Not because they're judgmental, but because they've spent a lifetime battling their own demons, and they expect others to face theirs too. So if you know one, or are one, you already know, still waters run deep, but Scorpio tigers don't just run deep. They burn. Every interaction is purposeful. Every silence means something. Every goodbye leaves an imprint. They're not forgettable, they're formative. Knowing one can feel like meeting a storm that rearranges your landscape. Being one can feel like carrying lightning in your chest, never sure when it might strike, but always knowing it holds power and truth. They don't exist quietly, they exist intensely, and they change people simply by being who they are. They don't just live life, they burn through it. They want to feel every inch of it, challenge every limit, taste every truth, and leave behind something that matters. They don't skim the surface of existence, they dive. They feel the pain, the passion, the poetry, and the paradox of being human, and they refuse to look away. That's what makes them unforgettable. They don't apologize for their fire. They channel it, and in doing so, they light a path for others to follow. They may never ask to be admired, but if you've ever been changed by one, you'll never forget them. Because a Scorpio tiger doesn't walk through life. They blaze through it, one truth, one battle, one transformation at a time.